Welcome, dear listener. Please tell me where you are listening from and what the time is for you. Tonight, as you settle into rest, allow me to take you on a quiet journey back in time. We will step into the Middle Ages, not through the noise of battles or the halls of kings, but through the ordinary lives of villagers, the men, women, and children who shaped each day with steady routines. Picture a small settlement tucked between fields and woodland. Simple houses of timber and clay stand close together. Roofs of straw glimmer softly in the morning light. Chickens wander freely across dirt paths. From a chimney, a thread of smoke curls into the air. Life is calm here, slower than ours, measured by the rising and setting of the sun. This world is free of alarms and machines. Instead, the rhythm of bells marks the hours. The sounds are softer: the creak of a cart, the crow of a rooster, the steady beat of a hammer in the blacksmith's forge. The smells are of earth, wood smoke, and fresh bread. We will follow one woman through her day. Her name is Aylwin. With her husband and children, she rises at dawn, works, eats, prays, and rests, as millions of people once did across medieval Europe. Through her we will see the tasks, the customs, and the simple moments that defined ordinary life centuries ago. This story will move slowly, like a stream at night. Each detail, drawn from history, will arrive gently, inviting you to relax, to drift, and perhaps to sleep. So breathe deeply, close your eyes, and let the stillness of the past surround you. Our journey begins at dawn, in the quiet of a medieval village. The first light of day begins not with sudden brightness, but with a slow and quiet glow. In a medieval village, dawn creeps gently across the landscape, painting the fields in soft shades of gray before the sun lifts fully into the sky. It is the year 1250, though the rhythms of this village could belong to many centuries. Life here has changed little for generations. People rise not to alarms, but to the natural calls of the earth. The rooster crowing, the bark of a dog, or the stir of neighbors beginning their day. Our guide into this world is Aylwin. She lies on a straw-filled mattress, covered with a coarse wool blanket. The room is dim. The air is cool, for there is no fire left burning through the night. Smoke from last evening's hearth lingers faintly, mixed with the smell of earth from the earthen floor. She stirs slowly, not with rush or panic, but with a sense of rhythm. In the Middle Ages, time was marked differently. There were no ticking clocks in village homes. Hours were felt through the sun's position, or through the bells of the church, which would ring to mark morning prayers. Aylwin rises, tying a simple linen shift at her waist. Her feet touch the cool ground. She moves quietly so as not to wake her children, who still sleep together on a shared pallet of straw. Beside her rests her husband, Tom, who will soon be in the fields. The house is small, a single room with walls of timber and daub, and a roof thatched with straw. Smoke from the hearth has blackened the beams above. There are no glass windows here. Instead, wooden shutters can be opened to let in light or air. In winter, cloth or parchment might cover the gaps. In summer, insects slip easily through the cracks. As she pushes the door open, the cool air of morning greets her. Mist hangs low across the fields. The dirt path outside is quiet, but life is already stirring. A neighbor carries a bucket toward the well, her steps slow and steady. A rooster crows again, shaking its wings. A dog stretches near the doorway of another home. Fetching water is among the first tasks of the day. Wells or streams provide what the village needs for drinking, cooking, and washing. Aylwin lifts a wooden bucket, her hands rough from years of use, and makes her way toward the communal well. Along the way, she passes a few neighbors, offering small nods. Words are few in the early hours. Everyone knows the work ahead, and silence fits the dawn. The well stands at the center of the village, a meeting place as much as a necessity. Its stones are worn smooth by countless hands and ropes. Aylwin lowers the bucket, listening as it splashes into the cool water below. She draws it up, arms straining with the weight, then steadies the bucket against her hip for the walk back home. In these first moments of the day, the village begins to breathe together. The sound of axes splitting kindling echoes faintly. The crackle of the first hearth fires joins the air. A child coughs in the distance, soon hushed by a mother's gentle voice. Life unfolds in small, familiar rhythms. Back at her home, Aylwin pours water into a clay vessel and sets some aside for kneading dough. Bread will be the backbone of the day's meals. For most villagers, it is the single most important food, filling the stomach even when little else is available. Dark loaves made of rye or barley are common, coarse and heavy. Wheat, finer and softer, is reserved for those of wealth or special occasions. As the fire is coaxed back to life with kindling, the smell of smoke begins to fill the small room. Her children stir now, rubbing their eyes, still wrapped in blankets. They rise slowly, yawning, their hair tangled from the night. She offers them each a piece of yesterday's bread, dipping it into ale to soften it. This is breakfast, plain, simple, and nourishing enough to begin the day. Meanwhile, Tom prepares for the fields. He pulls on rough wool garments, patched from years of wear. Around his waist, he ties a leather belt, and on his feet, he laces boots of hide. He carries with him a simple wooden plow, ready to be harnessed to the ox that waits in the small pasture. The ox is slow but steady. Strong shoulders bend to the yoke, and with patient steps, it will pull the plow through the heavy soil. Tom greets the animal with a firm hand, leading it carefully to the field where furrows will be cut, row by row. For Aylwin, the day's work is closer to home. She kneads the dough with steady pressure, pressing and folding, her hands moving in a rhythm passed down from generations. Soon, she will carry it to the village oven, where several families share the heat of one great fire. It is wasteful to keep many small ovens, so one serves the needs of many. The smell of fresh bread begins to drift across the village, mingling with the scent of earth and smoke. It is a smell both ordinary and comforting. For centuries, it has marked the beginning of each day. Outside, the sun climbs higher, and the mist begins to lift. The fields brighten, birds sing in the hedges. The village awakens fully now. Children fetch kindling, women spin wool, men prepare tools. The smith stirs his forge, hammer ringing out across the morning air. The miller tends to the water wheel, its steady turn grinding grain into flour. Though each task is different, all are bound together by necessity. Without bread, without tools, without grain, life cannot continue. Each person plays a part. As the morning stretches on, The village hums with quiet energy. Voices rise here and there, greeting one another. Chickens cluck, goats bleat, and dogs bark at the edge of the fields. Life in the medieval village is not silent, but it is slower than ours, carried by the steady beat of hands, tools, and animals at work. Aylwin pauses for a moment outside her home. She looks toward the horizon, where the fields stretch outward, divided by hedges and wooden fences. The land is not hers. It belongs to the Lord who rules over this village. But it is her life. Through it, she and her family survive. The sun climbs higher. Morning has passed. The rhythm of the day continues. The heart of every medieval morning was the preparation of food, and at the center of it all stood bread. It was not just a meal, not just a side to something else. It was the foundation of survival. To wake in a medieval village was to begin the day already thinking of bread, whether baking it, eating it, or stretching it to last until the next meal. For Aylwin, bread is the first true labor of the morning. She has already drawn water from the well and coaxed the hearth into flame. Now, in the dim light of her one-room home, she begins the ritual of kneading. The dough, heavy and coarse, is made from rye and barley. Sometimes a little wheat is mixed in, but wheat is costly and rarely seen in the homes of villagers. Her hands press firmly into the mixture, folding it, turning it, pressing again. The dough is not soft and airy like the bread we know today. It is dense, filling, and dark, with a flavor that is earthy and sometimes bitter. But to Aylwin and her family, it is life itself. Without bread, there is no strength to work, no way to endure the long hours in the fields. Children sit nearby, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Each child holds a small crust from yesterday's loaf. Breakfast is plain, a piece of bread dipped into ale to soften it, perhaps with a bit of cheese if luck is kind. Ale, weak and lightly brewed, is safer than water, for the process of brewing removes some of the impurities that might cause illness. Even the children drink it, though theirs is the weakest kind, more nourishing than intoxicating. The fire crackles softly, warming the room. Outside, voices rise as neighbors carry their own loaves toward the communal oven. In most villages, only a few great ovens existed, built of clay or stone. To waste wood on many small ovens would be foolish. Instead, families prepared their dough at home and then brought it to be baked together, filling the air with the shared smell of bread. The oven stands at the heart of the village, as important as the well or the church. It is tended by a baker or by a trusted villager, whose duty is to keep the fire steady. The heat must be balanced carefully. Too hot, and the bread will burn. Too cool, and the loaves will remain heavy and damp inside. To manage the oven is a skill in itself. Aylwin carries her loaf carefully, wrapped in cloth, and greets a few neighbors along the way. The path is alive with chatter now. Women exchange brief words, commenting on the weather, the health of their children, the state of the fields. Children dart between them, laughing, carrying small bundles of dough. At the oven, loaves are placed side by side, marked with simple signs to tell them apart. A slash across the top, a twist of dough at the edge, a carved wooden stamp pressed gently into the surface. These marks ensure that each family receives the bread that is theirs. As the loaves bake, Villagers linger nearby. The smell grows rich and heavy, filling the air with warmth. Smoke curls upward, carrying with it the promise of nourishment. Conversations drift into small stories. News of a relative in another village, a child's mischief, a reminder of the next holy day. While the bread bakes, Aelwyn's children play in the dust, their laughter mixing with the cluck of chickens. Tom, her husband, pauses on his way to the fields, nodding briefly before guiding his ox onward. Life moves in many directions at once, yet always circles back to the oven, the well, the hearth. When the bread is ready, loaves are lifted carefully from the oven's mouth. Each family gathers their own, the crust warm beneath their hands. The bread is dense and heavy, enough to sustain them for the day. Aelwyn carries hers home, its weight both physical and symbolic. This is survival, secured for another day. Back in her home, she sets the loaf on the wooden table. A small knife cuts slices for her children, who dip them once more into ale. Bread is eaten plain, or sometimes with onions, cheese, or a thin soup. Meat is rare, especially in the morning. For the poor, meals are simple and repetitive, but the repetition is steadying, a rhythm that brings comfort in its familiarity. Beyond her own family, bread shapes the entire village. It is the measure of wealth, the marker of feast and famine. A poor harvest means thinner loaves, mixed with peas, beans, or even ground acorns to stretch the flour further. A rich harvest brings softer bread, perhaps even flavored with honey or dried fruit. But always, in some form, bread remains. Bread also carries meaning beyond the table. In church, it becomes sacred, transformed in ritual into the body of Christ. At weddings, special loaves are baked, decorated with patterns. At funerals, bread is given to the poor, a gift in honor of the dead. To break bread with another is not just to eat, but to share trust and fellowship. For Aelwyn, these meanings linger in her thoughts as she works. She knows her bread is humble, yet she also knows it connects her to something greater, to her neighbors, to her ancestors, to the rhythm of life itself. After breakfast, she tidies the small space. The table is wiped with a damp cloth. The knife is set aside. The children are sent to gather kindling, while she prepares wool for spinning. Tom's footsteps can be heard faintly in the distance, the ox moving slowly across the fields. The day stretches ahead, but already the most important ritual has been completed. Bread has been baked. Bread has been shared. Strength has been given to face the hours of labor to come. The smell of fresh loaves still lingers in the air. The warmth of the oven seems to follow her, even as the sun climbs higher. In the heart of the village, the oven cools for a time, but by evening it will be fed again, ready for tomorrow's loaves. The rhythm continues, unbroken, day after day, year after year. And so, in the medieval village, breakfast is more than a meal. It is a beginning, a promise, and a connection, from earth to table, from family to community, from morning into the long hours ahead. As the morning sun climbs higher in the sky, the true work of the medieval day begins. For villagers like Aelwyn and Tom, labor is not a choice, but a necessity, woven into the fabric of survival. Every task, from the turning of soil to the weaving of cloth, keeps the community alive. Without work, there is no bread, no warmth, no safety. Tom is already in the fields. His ox pulls the plow slowly through heavy earth. the wooden blade cutting furrows that will hold the seeds of grain. The soil clings stubbornly, but Tom works with patience. Farming is never easy. It demands strength, resilience, and the willingness to face endless repetition. Yet for a medieval family, it is the foundation of life. The fields belong not to Tom himself, but to the local lord. Land is granted in exchange for service. Peasants like Tom are bound to work it, giving part of their harvest to their master. This is the system of feudalism: protection and land from the lord, labor and loyalty from the peasant. It is a system that shapes every hour of the day. In spring, the soil must be plowed and seeds scattered. In summer, weeds are pulled and crops tended. In autumn, grain is harvested with sickles, bundled into sheaves, and threshed to release kernels. Winter brings rest from planting, but even then there is mending, repairing, and planning for the year to come. As Tom works the land, Aylwin tends to duties nearer home. She spins wool into thread, her spindle turning slowly between practiced fingers. Wool is precious, for clothing must last many years. Every scrap of fabric is valued, patched and repatched until it can no longer be used. Beside her, children assist in small ways. A daughter gathers herbs from the edges of the field: thyme, sage, and yarrow, used for cooking and simple remedies. A son chases chickens, guiding them back toward their pen. Play and work blend together. There is no clear line between the two. Around the village, other trades come alive. The blacksmith, strong and steady, stokes the flames of his forge. Sparks fly as hammer meets iron, shaping nails, hinges, and tools. His work is loud, ringing through the air, a rhythm as constant as the heartbeat of the village. The carpenter smooths planks of wood, building carts, tables, and tools. He works carefully, for wood must last. Every item is valuable, not easily replaced. The miller tends to the water wheel, its steady rotation grinding grain into flour. The wheel creaks and groans, but its song is familiar, comforting. Without the mill, bread cannot be made. The villagers depend on him, bringing sacks of grain to be ground. In return, he takes a portion of flour as payment, his livelihood built on the labor of the stream. The women gather together to weave cloth. Looms clack softly, wooden frames stretched with threads. Fingers move quickly, patterns forming slowly with patience and skill. The cloth they create will be turned into tunics, cloaks, and blankets, all stitched at home by candlelight. Even children contribute meaningfully. At 5 or 6 years old, they may herd geese or fetch water. By 10, they are considered nearly adults in responsibility. Life is shorter here. Childhood passes quickly, and every hand is needed to keep the household secure. Work is not limited to tools and soil. There are animals to care for as well. Pigs grunt in their pens, rooting through scraps of food. Goats bleat, tugging against ropes tied to fence posts. Cows are milked carefully, their warm breath rising in the cool air. Milk will be churned into butter or turned into cheese, lasting longer than it does fresh. The rhythm of the day continues steadily. Sweat beads on Tom's brow as he guides the ox row after row. Aylwin hums softly as she spins, the thread gathering around her spindle. The smith's hammer rings, the miller's wheel turns, the carpenter's saw scrapes through wood. This work may seem endless, yet it is shared. Each villager depends on the others. Without the smith, there are no tools. Without the miller, no flour. Without the carpenter, no carts. Without the farmer, no grain. It is a circle, each role vital, each task essential. At times, labor is heavy and demanding, but there are also moments of peace. As Aylwin pauses to rest, she looks across the village, watching the smoke rise from chimneys, hearing the laughter of children in the distance. Life is not easy, but it is steady, and in that steadiness lies a kind of comfort. Even so, dangers linger. A poor harvest can mean hunger. A broken plow can delay planting. Illness can sweep through families, leaving fields untended. This is why work never stops. Each day must be filled with effort to prepare for hardships that might come tomorrow. By midday, the sun is high and fatigue begins to show. Tom wipes his brow and drinks from a wooden flask filled with thin ale. Aylwin gathers her children and prepares for the next meal, setting aside bread and pottage. Labor will continue after, but for now, the village slows. The rhythm of work is briefly replaced by the rhythm of rest, of food, of family gathered together. Still, even in moments of rest, work is never far away. Aylwin's spindle waits at her side. Tom's ox grazes nearby, ready to pull again. Tools lean against the walls, ready for another task. The village itself breathes in and out, always poised for the next demand. This is the essence of daily life in the medieval world. An endless cycle of labor, shared among family and neighbors, unbroken across the seasons. There is no retirement, no weekend, no pause beyond what the church or nature provides. But there is purpose. Every furrow plowed, every loaf baked, every tool hammered and shaped, all carry meaning, all sustain life. As the sun begins to dip ever so slightly westward, work pauses. The next meal waits. But the day is not done, and the rhythm will soon begin again. In the medieval village, health was fragile. Life itself balanced on a thin line, and even the smallest illness could grow into something dangerous. Yet despite the constant risk, people lived with a quiet acceptance, turning to herbs, prayers, and traditions to carry them through the uncertainties of each season. When the first cough echoed in a home, or when fever warmed a child's brow, villagers reached not for doctors were rare and far too costly, but for remedies passed down through memory. Women especially held this knowledge, gathering herbs at the edges of fields and forests. Their baskets filled with sage for strength, thyme for cleansing, rosemary for memory, and garlic to ward away sickness. Aylwin knows these remedies well. She dries sprigs of herbs by her hearth, hanging them in bundles that sway softly in the air. In the cool of morning, she grinds dried leaves into powders, mixing them into honey or ale. When her child feels ill, she offers a warm drink, sweetened with herbs, and whispers a prayer as she places the cup in small hands. Honey is precious, not only for its sweetness, but for its healing. Applied to wounds, it protects against infection. Vinegar, too, is valued, believed to purify the body and the home. The village healer, often an older woman with decades of knowledge, may prescribe poultices of herbs and clay, tied with cloth to aching limbs. Though some remedies bring relief, many are born of belief rather than science. Illness is thought to arise from imbalances of the body's humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Too much of one humor, it was said, could cause fever or melancholy. To restore balance, bleeding with leeches or cutting with knives was sometimes prescribed. Most peasants, however, did not bleed themselves at home. They relied instead on what was close at hand: herbs, rest, and above all, prayer. Religion and health were deeply entwined. The Church taught that sickness could be punishment for sin, or a trial to test faith. Healing, then, was not only a matter of herbs, but also of the soul. When fever struck, families prayed to saints known for their healing powers. Candles were lit at altars. Offerings were made. Hope was carried not only in the herb garden, but also in the chapel. The church bells marked more than the hours of labor. They called the faithful to prayer, shaping the rhythm of belief throughout the day. In the morning, villagers crossed themselves before work. At midday, they paused for Angelus. In the evening, as the sun dipped, they prayed again. The bells were reminders that God was always near, watching over sickness and health alike. Superstition, too, guided daily choices. Amulets of bone or carved wood might be tied around a child's neck to ward away evil spirits. Charms were whispered over fields to protect crops. A dream of clear water was seen as a good omen. A dream of fire might warn of illness or loss. When the moon hung full in the night sky, some believed it stirred madness in the mind. When comets streaked overhead, whispers spread that they brought plague or famine. The unseen world pressed close to daily life, shaping fears and hopes alike. Plague itself was the greatest terror. Though not constant, outbreaks of disease haunted memory. Villagers had no understanding of germs or contagion, yet they sensed the power of sickness that could sweep through homes with unstoppable force. To guard against it, some carried herbs with strong scents, believing foul smells could drive away disease. Others prayed more fervently, seeking divine mercy. Yet in between fears, life carried on with quiet resilience. Aylwin washes her children with water drawn from the well, scrubbing their hands and faces, though the water itself is not always clean. She combs their hair with care, believing tidiness protects against sickness. She lays herbs beneath their pillows, hoping sweet scents will chase away fevers. The healer of the village is a woman named Maud. She is old, her back bent, her hands wrinkled, but her mind holds decades of memory. She knows where to find the strongest mint, the purest willow bark, the most soothing lavender. Villagers come to her when troubles rise, seeking her knowledge as much as her comfort. She listens, she mixes, she prays, and sometimes simply her presence eases the fear. Health in this world is not a guarantee. Children often do not survive to adulthood. Women face danger in childbirth. A small wound, untreated, can grow fatal. Yet through herbs, prayers, and community, people endure. Belief is as much a remedy as medicine. Aylwin crosses herself when she feels a pain in her chest. Tom whispers a prayer before leading the ox to the fields, asking for strength. Even the children, before sleep, recite short prayers, their voices soft, their words half-remembered. In this weaving of health and belief, life continues. Illness may come, but so too does healing. Fear may rise, but so too does faith. And in the quiet balance of herbs, prayers, and tradition, the village finds its way forward. As the day moves on, work calls again. But the rhythm of health and belief remains ever present, shaping thoughts, guiding choices, and reminding the villagers that life, fragile though it may be, is also resilient. As the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, the pace of the village begins to change. The hours of heavy morning labor give way to a pause, a quiet turning of the day toward its center. For the people of the medieval world, midday is the moment when hunger calls most strongly and the body demands nourishment. Meals in this time are not feasts of variety. They are simple, repetitive, and deeply tied to the rhythm of the land. Yet even in their simplicity, they carry warmth, comfort, and the strength needed to continue the long hours of work. For Aylwin, midday begins with the stirring of a pot that rarely rests. Hanging above the fire is the village staple, pottage. This dish is more than food. It is the beating heart of sustenance, a stew that never truly empties. Into it go grains, beans, cabbage, onions, and sometimes bits of meat or fish, when fortune allows. Each day more is added, and each day bowls are dipped from its depths. The scent of simmering pottage fills the one-room home, carrying with it the promise of nourishment. The children gather eagerly, their stomachs rumbling. Tom, returning from the fields with the ox, wipes sweat from his brow and sits near the hearth. His hands are calloused, his back sore, but the sight of the bubbling pot is comfort enough. Bread, baked earlier in the morning, is brought to the table. The crust is thick and dark, the inside heavy and coarse. Each piece is torn and dipped into the pottage, softening as it soaks up the stew. This act, bread meeting stew, is the essence of medieval meals. Simple, repetitive, but sustaining. Onions and leeks are common, grown in nearly every garden. Beans and peas, too, fill the pot, providing protein in a world where meat is scarce. Herbs like parsley or thyme may be added for flavor, though spices such as pepper or cinnamon are luxuries, reserved for the wealthy or for feast days. When fish is available, it comes salted or dried, preserved to last through weeks of scarcity. Meat, more precious, is often pork. Chickens provide eggs more often than they provide themselves, and cattle are kept for milk and labor before they are slaughtered. For most villagers, meat is eaten rarely, perhaps on holidays or when an animal can no longer serve its purpose. As the family eats, they sit close together, sharing from a common pot. Wooden bowls and spoons are their tools, simple and sturdy. Knives are used sparingly, for many families own only one or two. Each bite is slow, deliberate, and appreciated. There are no banquets here, no overflowing tables. Yet in the quiet warmth of the home, the meal is enough. Outside, the same rhythm unfolds in every household. Neighbors gather around hearths, dipping bread into stew, passing cups of ale, offering small bites of cheese when available. Laughter rises from some homes, prayers from others. The village breathes as one, sustained by the same humble fare. For the wealthy, midday meals are far different. In the manor house of the Lord, tables are set with meats, pastries, and spices from faraway lands. Servants pour wine, musicians may play, and laughter echoes through stone halls. But here, in the village, meals are practical. They are fuel for the body, not displays of wealth. Still, there is joy even in simplicity. Aylwin's children smile as they dip bread into the thick stew, the warmth filling their bellies. Tom leans back for a moment, closing his eyes, savoring the rest as much as the food. Even the quiet crackle of the hearth becomes part of the meal, a sound that promises safety and home. After eating, scraps are saved carefully. Nothing is wasted. Bones are boiled for broth, skins are fed to pigs, and even stale bread is softened in milk or ale for later use. In a world where harvests may fail and winters may be long, Every crumb is treasured. With the meal finished, the family lingers for a short time. Stories may be told, prayers whispered, or simple silence shared. The children laugh softly, their faces brightened by full stomachs. For a brief moment, the weight of labor lifts, and peace fills the room. But midday is only a pause, not an end. Soon, Tom must return to the fields, guiding the ox through furrows, planting seeds that will grow into the very grains now simmering in the pot. Aylwin will return to her spindle, spinning wool into thread, while the children gather sticks or tend the animals. The work of the day continues, fueled by the simple strength of bread and stew. The rhythm of meals, like the rhythm of work, is unbroken. Morning begins with bread. Midday continues with pottage. Evening will bring more of the same, perhaps with a small addition if fortune allows. There is little variety, but there is constancy. And constancy in the medieval world is a kind of wealth. In moments like these, the bonds of family and community are strengthened. To share bread is to share trust. To dip from the same pot is to affirm belonging. Meals are not just about filling the stomach. They are about reminding one another that survival is a shared task. As Tom rises once more to return to the fields, he carries with him the strength of the meal. His steps are steadier, his arms stronger, his mind clearer. Aylwin watches him go, then turns back to the hearth, stirring the pot once more to ensure nothing sticks. The stew will remain for supper, carrying the family through another cycle of the day. The sun climbs higher still, but soon it will begin its slow descent. The long hours of afternoon labor await. Yet for now the family has eaten, the hearth is warm, and the village hums with quiet contentment. And so the day continues, built upon bread, upon pottage, upon the steady rhythm of nourishment that has sustained humanity for centuries. The sun has passed its highest point now, and the light begins to soften. Shadows stretch across the village paths, and the warmth of midday gives way to the steady hours of afternoon. For a medieval villager, there is no leisure in this part of the day. The pause for food has ended, and the weight of labor calls once more. Tom returns to the fields, guiding his ox along furrows carved in the soil. The animal moves slowly, its hooves pressing into the damp earth. Each row is cut with care, seeds scattered by hand into the waiting ground. The work is repetitive, but repetition is survival. Each seed that falls holds the promise of bread to come, the strength to endure another winter. Across the village, other trades stir into renewed effort. The blacksmith wipes his brow and lifts his hammer once more. Sparks leap from iron as the forge glows bright. The ring of metal on metal echoes beyond the smithy walls, a rhythm that the villagers know as well as their own heartbeats. Each strike shapes nails, tools, and hinges, the quiet bones of village life. Near the stream, the miller tends to his great wheel. The steady turn of wood against water is endless, as reliable as the flow of the river itself. Grain pours from sacks into the millstones, crushed into flour that will soon become bread. The miller listens for changes in the wheel's song, adjusting the gears, ensuring that nothing breaks. For if the mill stops, the village's rhythm falters. Within the homes, women work with wool and cloth. Spindles turn, looms clack softly, and threads stretch across wooden frames. Each length of cloth is precious, taking weeks or months to finish. The fabric will become tunics for children, cloaks for workers, or blankets for cold nights. Aylwin spins carefully, her spindle dancing between her fingers, the thread collecting with patient strength. Children play near their mothers, but their games are shaped by labor. One child drags a stick through the dust, pretending to plow. Another balances a bucket, laughing as water sloshes out. A group gathers stones, stacking them into the shape of a hearth. In these simple games, they prepare for the roles they will take on in only a few short years. Animals stir in the afternoon sun. Goats tug at their ropes, bleating softly. Pigs grunt in their pens, rooting through scraps of food. Chickens scratch at the earth, scattering dust as they search for seeds and worms. Dogs pace the edges of the village, their ears alert for strangers or wild beasts. The hum of life surrounds every corner, each sound a reminder of the village's fragile balance. At the edge of the fields, neighbors call to one another. Words are brief, carried on the wind. A greeting, a warning, a reminder to meet at the oven before dusk. Community is built not through long conversations, but through countless small exchanges, woven like threads into the fabric of each day. Sometimes, villagers gather together for shared tasks. A fence is raised, with many hands lifting posts and tying ropes. A roof is mended, neighbors passing bundles of straw upward, layering them to keep out rain. Work done together strengthens not only homes, but also the bonds between families. The sounds of the village in afternoon are many. The creak of wooden carts carrying hay, the steady clink of a blacksmith's hammer, the chatter of women spinning, the splash of water drawn from the well, the laughter of children chasing one another down dusty paths. None are loud or hurried. All move with the same steady rhythm that marks medieval life. Religion shapes even these hours. The church bell may ring, calling for brief prayers. Farmers cross themselves before returning to their plows. Women murmur blessings as they weave. Faith is not separate from labor. It is stitched into every task. A quiet assurance that God watches over the smallest actions. As the afternoon deepens, fatigue begins to set in. Tom pauses in his work, leaning on the handle of the plow. His shoulders ache, his hands are rough with calluses, but his spirit remains steady. He drinks from a flask of ale, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand before guiding the ox onward. Aylwin sets her spindle aside for a moment, stretching her arms. She glances at her children, their faces dusty but bright with energy. She calls them to fetch kindling for the evening fire, their small feet hurrying along the path. Even in moments of weariness, there is always something to be done. As the sun begins to lower, the village feels a shift. The air cools slightly, shadows lengthen, and the hum of work softens. Tools are set aside, animals guided back to pens, carts rolled into shelters. The blacksmith lets his forge die down. The miller eases the flow of grain. The carpenter places his tools on the bench. Yet even as tasks slow, the sense of community remains strong. Neighbors gather to exchange words of thanks, to offer help, or simply to share a nod of recognition. Life here is woven from such gestures, small yet steady, binding each person to the other. For Aylwin and Tom, the afternoon has been long but fruitful. The fields are tended, the wool spun, the children kept busy. Soon, it will be time to prepare the evening meal, to gather once more around the hearth. But for now, the village breathes in the soft air of late afternoon, its rhythm slowing, its people united by the work that sustains them all. The day has grown long. The sun drifts lower in the sky, casting golden light across the fields and thatched rooftops. Shadows stretch over the dirt paths of the village, softening the lines of homes and hedges. Evening approaches, and with it comes a change in rhythm, from the demands of labor to the comfort of rest, from toil to togetherness. Tom leads the ox back toward its pen. The animal, tired from the steady pull of the plow, lowers its head, snorting softly as it walks. The field, furrowed row by row, is left behind to rest until tomorrow. Tools are leaned against the wall of the home, mud clinging to their wooden handles. Tom wipes his brow with a rough cloth and takes a deep breath of the cooling air. In the village, others finish their work as well. The blacksmith lets his forge burn low, the glowing embers dimming to orange. The carpenter sets aside his saw, stacking wood neatly for another day. The miller adjusts the wheel of the watermill, slowing its turn before closing the door of his small building. The sounds of labor grow quiet, replaced by softer noises. The bleating of goats, the laughter of children, the low murmur of neighbors greeting one another as they walk home. Aylwin gathers her children from the paths where they have been playing. Their cheeks are dusty, their hair tangled, but their eyes are bright. She smiles as she ushers them inside, guiding them to wash their hands with water from the well. Cleanliness, though simple, is an evening ritual that gives a sense of order and care. The hearth fire, coaxed back to life, glows warmly as Aylwin prepares the evening meal. Once again, the pot of pottage bubbles gently, filled with the same grains, beans, and vegetables that sustained the family at midday. Leftovers are stirred in, fresh herbs sprinkled on top. Bread, baked in the morning, is cut into thick slices. There may be a small piece of cheese or a few eggs gathered from the chickens, but nothing more. Evening meals are plain, but they are filling enough to close the day. The family gathers around the table. Tom lowers himself onto the bench, his body weary, but his heart comforted by the sight of home. The children chatter about their small adventures. A frog found near the stream, a game played with stones, a race down the village path. Aylwin listens, smiling, while ladling stew into wooden bowls. Each family member dips bread into the warm pottage, the simple act of eating together binding them closely. Beyond their home, the village is alive with similar scenes. Fires glow in hearths, sending thin curls of smoke into the evening sky. Families sit together, voices mingling with the crackle of firewood. Some homes ring with laughter, others with prayer. The air carries the rich scent of stews and the earthy smell of animals settling down for the night. After supper, the family lingers. Tom tells a short tale, his voice slow and steady. It may be a memory from his youth, or perhaps a story passed down from his father, a tale of a saint, or a legend of an old king. Storytelling is the great entertainment of the age, filling the silence left by the absence of books or music. The children listen wide-eyed, though their lids grow heavy. Aylwin smiles as she spins wool by the hearth, her spindle turning slowly in her hands. The hum of daily life softens into the glow of evening, each sound quieter, each moment calmer. Neighbors sometimes visit after supper, carrying small cups of ale or bringing news. Together they sit by the fire, speaking in low voices. Topics range from the state of the harvest to the next holy day, from a new calf born in the pasture to the rumors of events in faraway towns. Evenings are times of connection, when bonds between families are strengthened through simple conversation. Religion again touches these hours. As the last light fades, the church bell may ring for evening prayers. Families kneel together, crossing themselves, murmuring words of gratitude for the day and seeking protection for the night ahead. The sound of voices blends across the village, carried by the cool breeze. Children are guided to bed soon after prayers. They curl together on a straw mattress, blankets of wool pulled over them. Their whispers fade into silence as their breathing slows. Aylwin kisses their foreheads softly before returning to the hearth. Tom remains near the fire, mending a broken handle with steady hands. Even in rest, small tasks are completed. Tools sharpened, clothes patched, wood stacked for tomorrow. The medieval day allows little waste of time, even in its quieter hours. Yet, these tasks are gentler than the heavy labor of the fields. They carry a sense of peace, of order, of preparation. Outside, the night deepens. Stars emerge one by one, scattered across the darkening sky. The air cools, carrying with it the smell of damp earth and smoke. Dogs bark faintly at the edges of the village, warning away unseen creatures. An owl hoots softly from the trees. Inside, the fire burns low, casting a warm glow across the walls. Shadows flicker, dancing like silent figures along the beams of the roof. Aylwin sets aside her spindle at last. Tom finishes his mending, placing the tool carefully beside the door. Together, they sit for a moment in silence, listening to the crackle of the fire, feeling the comfort of home. Evening in the medieval village is not grand or filled with luxury. It is simple, steady, and deeply human. It is the gathering of family, the sharing of food, the telling of stories, the soft glow of firelight. It is a time when the burdens of the day are set aside and the heart turns toward rest. And so, as the village settles into stillness, another day draws gently to a close. The cycle continues as it always has, guided by sun and moon, by work and rest, by community and faith. The sun has dipped fully below the horizon now, and the sky is painted in deep shades of blue and black. Stars scatter across the heavens, their light faint yet constant. The village rests beneath this vast sky, its paths quiet, its homes glowing with the last flickers of firelight. Night has come. For the medieval villager, night is both comfort and danger, both rest and uncertainty. Without the glow of lamps or the hum of machines, darkness is total, thick and enveloping. The hearth provides the only light within the home, its flames casting long, wavering shadows across walls of timber and clay. Inside Aylwin's home, the evening's meal is finished. The bowls have been set aside, the pot of pottage pushed closer to the fire to keep it warm until morning. Breadcrumbs rest on the table, but none are wasted. What remains will be softened in ale or broth tomorrow. The rhythm of survival allows no room for carelessness. The children are already drowsy. They curl together on a mattress of straw, their bodies close beneath a heavy wool blanket. Their breaths grow slow and steady, their small hands clutching the edges of the cloth. Aylwin tucks the blanket around them, whispering a short prayer over their sleep. She places sprigs of lavender and rosemary beneath their pillows, herbs believed to protect against bad dreams and illness. Tom sets aside the last of his mending, stretching his tired arms. His body aches from the day's work, but he feels the satisfaction of tasks completed. The ox is fed and safe in its pen. The tools are cleaned and ready for tomorrow. His family has eaten. These small certainties carry him into rest. Before sleep, prayers are spoken. Aylwin kneels near the hearth, murmuring words of gratitude and petitions for safety. Tom joins her, his voice low and steady. Together they ask for protection from fire, from thieves, from sickness, from the spirits believed to wander in the night. Faith wraps around them like another blanket, a comfort as real as the warmth of the fire. The fire itself is banked carefully. Embers are pushed together, covered slightly with ash to preserve them until morning. It is dangerous to leave flames untended, yet equally dangerous to let the fire die out completely. Without it, the home will be cold, and rekindling it would require sparks from flint or the kindness of a neighbor. The balance must be kept, as in so many things. Night outside is not silent. The bark of dogs carries from the edges of the village, where they guard against intruders or wild animals. An owl hoots softly in the trees. The wind rustles through the thatch of roofs, whistling faintly. The creak of wooden shutters marks the movement of air. These sounds, though small, are reminders that life continues even in the dark. Yet the dark is feared. Spirits and dangers are believed to move most freely at night. Ghosts of the dead, demons of the air, and creatures of the forest, all are said to wander beneath the moon. Children are warned not to step outside after dark, for unseen hands may reach for them. Even adults are wary, leaving their homes only when necessary. The night belongs not to people, but to forces beyond their control. In wealthier homes, candles of beeswax may burn, filling the air with a faint, sweet scent. But in the homes of villagers, light comes from tallow candles made from animal fat. Their flames flicker and sputter, giving more smoke than glow. Often, no candle is lit at all. The hearth alone provides enough. Dreams, too, hold meaning. A dream of water might promise change. A dream of fire might warn of illness. Some believe that dreams are messages from God, while others fear that they are tricks of demons. In the morning, dreams are told and discussed, their meanings guessed at and remembered. The way people sleep is different from our own. Many share one bed, or sleep side by side on straw pallets. Privacy is rare, and warmth is precious. Families huddle close together, bodies lending heat against the chill of night. Sleep may come in two segments, one in the early evening, another after waking briefly around midnight. During this waking time, prayers may be said, small tasks done, or quiet conversations shared before returning to rest. In Aylwin's home, sleep arrives slowly. Tom lies down beside her, pulling the wool blanket over them. The children murmur in their dreams. The fire glows faintly, shadows dancing like silent figures along the walls. Aylwin listens to the sounds, the crackle of embers, the sigh of wind, the steady breathing of her family, and allows her body to grow heavy with rest. Beyond their home, the village itself sleeps. Paths that were busy with carts and voices now lie empty. Fields stretch into darkness, their furrows invisible beneath the stars. The church stands silent, its bell resting until morning. Even the mill wheel slows, turning gently in the stream. Watchmen sometimes walk the edges of the settlement, carrying staffs or torches. Their steps are slow, their eyes alert for fire, thieves, or strangers. They are the guardians of the night, keeping silent watch while others sleep. Yet even they feel the weight of darkness, the sense that unseen forces linger just beyond the reach of the flame. The night is long, but not endless. As hours pass, the fire fades, stars drift overhead, and the village sinks deeper into rest. Dreams carry the people into other worlds, where fields are brighter, meals richer, and burdens lighter. In dreams, fears and hopes mingle, shaping the stories told at dawn. And so the medieval night passes, not in silence, but in the steady rhythm of sleep, prayer, fear, and dreams. It is a time of vulnerability, yet also of renewal. For when the sun rises once more, the cycle begins again. Bread to bake, fields to tend, stories to tell. For now, though, the village rests. Beneath the thatched roofs, families breathe together. The hearth glows faintly, the blankets are pulled close, and the weight of the day dissolves into stillness. Night has come, and with it, sleep. The village lies quiet now, wrapped in the stillness of night. The fires have burned low, the tools are set aside, and the fields rest beneath the stars. From dawn until dusk, life has unfolded in steady rhythms. Bread baked, soil turned, wool spun, prayers whispered. Each task, though small on its own, has built the fabric of survival. We have walked with Aylwin and Tom through their day, seeing how ordinary villagers lived in the Middle Ages. Their lives were not filled with grandeur or riches, but with repetition, duty, and community. Bread in the morning, labor through the afternoon, pottage at supper, prayers at night. Simple patterns, yet they carried families through centuries. There is something soothing in this constancy. No rush of machines, no endless noise of the modern world, just the slow passage of sun and moon, guiding each hour. The sounds were familiar: the crow of a rooster, the creak of a cart, the ring of the blacksmith's hammer, the laughter of children, the whisper of evening prayers. And though their lives were harder than ours, there was also closeness. Families shared food, beds, and stories. Neighbors worked side by side, building fences, tending ovens, raising roofs. The village moved as one body, bound together by necessity, but also by trust. As you listen now, let the images of this world settle into your thoughts like embers glowing quietly in the hearth. Imagine the warmth of wool blankets, the scent of herbs by the pillow, the soft hush of night outside the window. The day has ended for Aylwin and Tom, as it has for countless villagers before them. Tomorrow will bring the same tasks again: water to fetch, dough to knead, fields to plow, prayers to whisper. Yet within that cycle lies a comfort, the assurance that life continues, steady and unbroken. So let your own day end here as well. Let go of the weight of work, of worry, of thought. Breathe deeply, as the villagers once did, and feel the calm of night surround you. Close your eyes, dear listener. Let the quiet rhythm of the past carry you into sleep. The fire fades, the stars shine above, and the world is at rest. Good night.